Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, I'm proud to introduce a watch that's a little bit of a favorite of mine. This is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak 14790 ST, 36 millimeters in brushed and polished stainless steel. This watch debuted in the early 1980s as a model that provided a mid-size Audemars Piguet Royal Oak option. I've often said that Royal Oaks, whether offshores or the traditional Gerald Genta style watch, wear larger than their nominal size because of the integrated lugs and integrated bracelet, and I maintain that. For this reason, with my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, I've often felt that the best fit for me, the best aesthetic match, is the mid-size 14790. Now, I've spoken and written widely on the merits of this model. I've even written an article on a blog to watch about how much I liked this piece and thought it was underrated. But the bottom line is, on my wrist, it reads as a Royal Oak. Not a mid-size Royal Oak, but an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. The proportions are perfect. Instead of feeling like it's pushing the limits and flaring out beyond the edges of my wrist, I feel like the fit is perfect. If you have a wrist that's in the low 6-inch circumference range, around 16, 15 centimeters circumference for those using metric, you really have to consider the 14790 because the comfort, the weight, and the incredibly flat, flush fit to the skin makes this an ideal dress or casual timepiece. The combination of the brushed and polished steel with the dark blue tapisserie dial is classical Gerald Genta. Because the proportions of the watch don't change, the outright size changes, but the proportions do not, the watch reads as its slightly bigger brother. But for all practical intents and purposes, it is. It's an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak in stainless steel with a tapisserie dial and, just like the original Jumbo, a Jaeger-LeCoultre movement powering it all. And because it is just a little bit scaled down, I have to say that when it's on my wrist with this thin, fine Audemars Piguet stainless steel bracelet, the impression I get is that of the original Jumbo. Unlike the later 15300, 15400 references, which became thicker and heavier and bulkier, this one has that beauty and delicacy and lightness of the original. It's very true to Genta's vision, and for that reason, it makes this the no-brainer Royal Oak option that I would choose for myself. Now, every part of the bracelet, the case, the bezel, the white gold inset bezel bolts, and the clasp is finished to the exact same standard as the original Jumbo and the full-size contemporary Audemars Piguet Royal Oaks. The bottom line is, although this watch is the mid-size, it isn't finished to a middle standard. There's only one standard for a Royal Oak bracelet, case, and bezel finish, and that is absolute. All of the beautiful hand chamfers are present. All the detailing, the cosmetic detailing on the top side, the ergonomic finish that avoids the pulling of hair or the pinching of skin on the bottom, it's all present and accounted for. The beautiful polish on the flanks of the traditional Royal Oak octagonal bezel, with the brushing on the top contrasting against the polished white gold bezel bolts, this is classic AP. Everything that goes into a Royal Oak is present and accounted for in beautiful proportion and abundant craft excellence. Now, the bracelet itself is the older style single slider deployant. With contrasting brushed and polished finish, it uses this AP marquee slider at the bottom, and when closed, it's incredibly low in profile. Almost like the Rolex crown clasp that closes with really no sign of the parting point, save the Rolex crown itself, the traditional lower profile Audemars Piguet Royal Oak bracelets have that quality to them, and I'm happy to say that this 14790 has it in spades. Reads as a bracelet, an unbroken continuity of steel from one side to the other. Gerald Genta, who penned the original Royal Oak, was a jewelry designer first and foremost, and this watch has all of that inherent high jewelry beauty to it. But it is, first and foremost, a timepiece, and a sports timepiece. So rendered entirely in stainless steel, with the porthole style Royal Navy inspired bezel, you can see it gives way to the Audemars Piguet traditional tapisserie or waffle cut or hobnail dial. Now, while the iPhone is a bit deceptive, this one is a very dark blue. All of the indices, as well as the AP marquee at 12 o'clock, are polished white gold. The quality of the finish is superb. The detailing likewise. Now, prior to 2012, and this is a pre-2012 example, all Audemars Piguet Royal Oaks and Royal Oak offshores featured dials made at Stern Creations. Now, this was a company that came from the family that ran and continues to run Patek Philippe. As a matter of fact, they were making dials before they ran Patek. They bought Patek out of bankruptcy in the 30s because, as dial makers, they were one of Patek's largest suppliers and dependent on its business. So Stern Creations created these beautiful tapisserie dials with a JLC movement and Audemars Piguet case, bezel, and bracelet. The Stern Creations dial, it's almost like this 14790 represents sort of a microcosm of the best of Swiss high horology in a single watch. Delicate, perfectly proportioned. It also has a little bit of convenience that you're not going to find in something like a jumbo. The center seconds hand, personally, I like it. I think it makes the watch more wearable, more usable, and a more practical reference for daily use. So I like that innovation, and it's courtesy of a JLC 889 based Audemars Piguet 2225 caliber. Automatic winding with a very smooth bidirectional engagement, so there's no unweighted unidirectional rattle on the wrist. It's also an exceptionally thin movement. Finely made, Audemars Piguet and Jaeger-LeCoultre are very close coupled geographically, and they have a long history of collaboration that stretches back to the 1870s, when Audemars and Piguet themselves were actually clients of JLC's complication builders. The bottom line is that that heritage continued with the original Audemars Piguet Royal Oak in 1972, powered by JLC's ultra-thin 920 Bosch, and in the midsize, it continues with JLC's 889 movement. It features hacking seconds, so when you pull the crown, it will stop the balance, so the seconds hand, as well as the hours and the minutes, can be synchronized precisely to an accurate reference timer. It's really the high-performance engine that a high-end watch of this stature deserves. So if you love the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, but you have any reservations whatsoever about the fit of a full bracelet, integrated lug, integrated bracelet watch on your wrist, consider this 14790 ST. And I want to emphasize that when you look at it alongside a traditional 39mm Royal Oak, and right here I'm looking at the 26120 dual time, unless you really superimpose them, the difference in size is almost imperceptible. This watch has a fit that is very distinct, superior, ergonomically outstanding for a smaller wrist. This watch is going to wear larger. It's going to flare out more. It's got more shoulder. It doesn't want to pull its links in because its links are thicker and its case is broader, in quite the same fashion that this one will. You can see the difference in thickness. This is a very fine timepiece, and like I said, on the wrist, ergonomically, it's evocative of the original jumbo, the thinnest and the finest of the Royal Oaks. So you can see that in terms of dimensions, in terms of proportions, it's really a wash between the 39 and the 36. The only difference from more than 12 inches away, quite honestly, is going to be that this one wears just a little bit more comfortably on a smaller wrist. This one perhaps is the better option for a larger wrist. The finish, the standard of watchmaking, the craft excellence, it's a wash. They are equal. So consider the Audemars Piguet 14790 ST as the ideal option for a smaller wrist on a connoisseur who prefers the Audemars Piguet look, feel, heritage, the finish, and the allure of the Royal Oak, because that's absolutely what this Royal Oak 14790 ST is. This is a Royal Oak through and through.